All right, listen up. I'm John Harrison Langley, your history teacher for this quiz. Now pay attention because I won't repeat myself. We're about to embark on a journey through time, and I expect you to keep up. Here are the rules. I'll ask 5 questions about historical events and figures. You'll have 3 options to choose from for each question. If you get it right, you earn a point. If not, well, let's just say I won't be pleased. After each question, I'll ask for additional information. If it's spot on, you get another point. Somewhat related, half a point. Completely off, nothing. My mission is to drill some historical knowledge into that head of yours, whether you like it or not. Now tell me the century and country you want to focus on, and make it snappy.
18th century in the Netherlands.
The 18th century Netherlands, eh? Well, at least you've picked an interesting period. Let's see if you can keep up with the Dutch Golden Age's aftermath. Let's start with our first question. Pay attention. Who became the first hereditary stadtholder of all the Dutch provinces in 1747? A. William IV, Prince of Orange. B. Louis Bonaparte. C. William V, Prince of Orange. And don't just guess. I want to know why you think that's the answer.
Well, I know that it's the Prince of Orange, but I can't remember if it was the 4th or the 5th. I'm gonna go for A.
Well. It seems there's a glimmer of hope for you after all. You're right, it was indeed William IV, Prince of Orange. He became the first hereditary stadtholder of all Dutch provinces in 1747. Now, don't get too cocky. You mentioned you weren't sure if it was William IV or William V. Let me clear that up for you. William IV was the father of William V. The latter came to power later, in 1766, and wasn't exactly known for his, shall we say, competence. All right, since you got that right, let's see if you can elaborate. Tell me, what major event led to William IV being appointed as stadtholder of all provinces? And make it snappy.
Are you not going to give me an A, B, or C? Because that's a difficult question.
Oh, for heaven's sake, did you not listen to a word I said during the introduction? I explicitly stated that after each main question, I'd ask for additional information without multiple choice options. This is to test your actual knowledge, not your guessing skills. But since you're clearly struggling, I'll give you a hint. It involved a foreign invasion that scared the Dutch into unifying their leadership. Now rack your brains and give me an answer. And let me remind you, this additional information can earn you extra points. So think carefully before you respond, or you'll miss out on boosting your score. Come on, we haven't got all day. What major event led to William IV's appointment?
Oh God, was it? I guess that was the 17th century. I know there was a revolution, but was it the one against the Spanish rule?
Good grief! You're mixing up your centuries worse than a time traveler with jet lag. The Spanish rule? The revolution against Spain? That was in the 16th and 17th centuries. We're talking about the 18th century here. Pay attention. The event I was referring to was the War of Austrian Succession, specifically the French invasion of the Dutch Republic in 1747. This threat prompted the Dutch to appoint William IV as stadtholder of all provinces for unity and leadership. Your answer was so far off, I can't even give you a pity point. Let's move on before I lose what little faith I have left in the education system. Next question, and try to stay in the right century this time. What economic system characterized by government control of foreign trade was dominant in the Dutch Republic during the early 18th century? A. Capitalism. B. Mercantilism. C. Feudalism. Well, I'm waiting.
I go for B. Mercantilism, because they were traders. There was a big fleet. of ships that would sell and trade goods all over the world.
Well, knock me down with a feather. You've actually managed to get something right. Yes, the correct answer is indeed B, mercantilism. Your reasoning isn't entirely off base, but let me sharpen that blunt understanding of yours. Mercantilism wasn't just about trading, you simpleton. It was an economic theory that emphasized maximizing exports and minimizing imports. The Dutch, with their vast trading empire, were masters at this game. They didn't just sell and trade goods, they controlled and monopolized trade routes, established colonies, and aimed to accumulate wealth in the form of gold and silver. It was all about national power and wealth. Now, since you seem to have a vague idea about Dutch trade, let's see if you can dig a little deeper into that brain of yours. What was the name of the Dutch trading company that dominated Asian trade during this period? And don't even think about asking for multiple choice options this time.
I know this one. It was the VOC, and in Dutch that's the Verenigde Oost-Indische Company.
Well, strike me pink. You've actually impressed me this time. You're absolutely correct. The VOC, or Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, in Dutch, also known as the Dutch East India Company in English, was indeed the powerhouse of Dutch trade in Asia during this period. I must say, I'm pleasantly surprised you even knew the full Dutch name. Perhaps there's hope for you yet. The VOC was a behemoth of its time, essentially the world's first multinational corporation. It had quasi-governmental powers, including the ability to wage war, negotiate treaties, coin money, and establish colonies. Founded in 1602, it dominated the spice trade and played a crucial role in the Dutch Golden Age. By the 18th century, however, it was beginning to decline due to corruption and competition. All right, don't let this success go to your head. We're moving on to the next question. Stay sharp. What political faction, advocating for a decentralized government and opposing the House of Orange, was prominent in 18th century Dutch politics? A, the Orangists. B, the Republicans. C, the Patriots. Come on then, let's see if you can keep this streak going.
A, the Oranges.
Good Lord, what a spectacular display of ignorance. First of all, it's oranges, not orangies. If you're going to butcher the Dutch language, at least do it with some flair. Secondly, and more importantly, you've got it completely backwards. The Orangists were supporters of the House of Orange, not opponents. The correct answer is B, the Republicans. These were the folks who advocated for a decentralized government and opposed the increasing power of the House of Orange. The Republicans, also known as the Staatsgezanden or the States Party, wanted power to remain with the individual provinces rather than a centralized monarchy. They were constantly at odds with the Orangists throughout the 18th century. Now, since you've clearly demonstrated a lack of understanding about Dutch political factions, let me ask you this. Can you name any prominent Republican leader from this period? And don't even think about guessing wildly.
Was it Wilhelm von Nassau?
Oh, for the love of... Are you deliberately trying to drive me to madness? Wilhelm von Nassau. Wilhelm von Nassau. First of all, that name is more German than Dutch. Secondly, the House of Nassau was part of the lineage of the House of Orange. They were the exact opposite of Republicans. You've managed to confuse not just the faction, but the entire century and nationality. I'm beginning to think you're doing this on purpose. Let me educate you, since you clearly need it. A prominent Republican leader of the 18th century was Johann de Witt. Although he was assassinated in 1672, his influence extended well into the 18th century. Another important figure was Cornelis de Graeff. These men advocated for a republican form of government, opposing the monarchical tendencies of the House of Orange. They believed in the power of the merchant class and the individual provinces. I suggest you spend less time making wild guesses and more time actually studying history. Now let's move on before I lose what little patience I have left. Which Dutch scientist, known for his work on electricity and invention of the Leyden jar, was prominent in the 18th century? A. Antoni van Leeuwenhoek. B. Pieter van Musschenbroek. C. Christian Huygens. Well, I'm waiting, and please try to stay in the correct century this time.
I think it's Munchenbroek. Yeah, he was kind of the Dutch kind of Edison, I guess.
Well, You've actually stumbled onto the right answer, even if you butchered the poor man's name. It's Muschenbroek, not Munchenbroek. Say it with me, Muschenbroek. But yes, the correct answer is indeed B, Pieter van Musschenbroek. Now your comparison to Edison is, well, let's say it's creative. Muschenbroek wasn't exactly the Dutch Edison. He lived a century before Edison and worked primarily in academic circles, not as an inventor-entrepreneur. He's best known for his work on the Leyden jar, one of the first devices for storing static electricity. This invention was crucial for later developments in the field of electricity. Now, since you seem to have a vague idea about Muschenbroek's work, let's see if you can elaborate. What was the Leyden jar used for in scientific experiments of the time? And remember, no multiple choice this time.
Well, you already just said that. It was used to store energy. It was basically like first kind of battery, I guess.
Well, it seems you were actually listening. I'm mildly impressed. You're on the right track, even if your explanation is about as elegant as a drunk sailor trying to dance the minuet. Yes, the Leyden jar was indeed used to store static electricity, making it a precursor to the modern capacitor. Not exactly a battery, but close enough for your level of understanding. To elaborate on your fumbling explanation, the Leyden jar allowed scientists to store larger amounts of electrical charge than ever before. This led to more dramatic experiments and demonstrations, like creating sparks or giving people electric shocks, all in the name of science, of course. It was crucial in the development of electrical theory and played a significant role in Benjamin Franklin's famous kite experiment. All right, don't let this minor success go to your head. We've got one last question, so try to end on a high note, will you? Which 18th century Dutch artist is famous for his detailed cityscapes of Amsterdam and other Dutch towns? A. Rembrandt van Rijn. B. Johannes Vermeer. C. Jan van der Heyden. Come on, impress me one last time.
Well, I think Rembrandt was earlier. I can't remember who Van der Heyden is. It must be Johannes Vermeer. He definitely did landscapes.
Oh, for the love of... You were doing so well, and then you go and muck it up at the last hurdle. Your reasoning is as twisted as a pretzel. Yes, Rembrandt was earlier. Good job on that tiny morsel of knowledge. But everything else? Pure, unadulterated hogwash. Johannes Vermeer. Landscapes. Have you ever even seen a Vermeer painting? He's known for his intimate domestic scenes and portraits, not cityscapes. The correct answer is C. Jan van der Heyden. And it's Haydn, not Haida. Jan van der Heyden was a painter, printmaker, and inventor who lived from 1637 to 1712, making him active in the early 18th century. He's renowned for his meticulous cityscapes of Amsterdam and other Dutch towns. His paintings were known for their precise detail and innovative use of light, often featuring complex architectural elements. Now, since you thoroughly botched this question, let me ask you this. Besides painting, what other significant contribution did Jan van der Heyden make to Amsterdam? And please, try to redeem yourself with this one.
Um, I I don't know. I think he was like a firefighter or something. I think that's where I got confused. Um, but yeah, I know that he definitely had some input in the Great Fire that was in Amsterdam.
Well, I'll be a Dutchman's uncle. Just when I thought you were completely hopeless, you pull this out of the hat. You're absolutely right, and I'm shocked you knew this. Jan van der Heyden wasn't just a painter. He was indeed involved with firefighting. In fact, he revolutionized firefighting in Amsterdam. He invented the fire hose in 1672, a massive improvement over the bucket brigades of the time. He didn't stop there. Van der Heyden also designed a more efficient water pump and wrote and illustrated the first firefighting manual. His innovations were so effective that they were adopted by many other European cities. Talk about a Renaissance man, painter, inventor, and firefighter. I must say, you've managed to redeem yourself somewhat with this bit of knowledge. Perhaps there's hope for you yet. Now let's tally up your score and see how you fared overall. All right, let's see what we got here. You answered 3 out of 5 main questions correctly. Not terrible, but not exactly setting the world on fire either. For the additional information, you bombed on the War of Austrian Succession, but you knew about the VOC, fumbled with Dutch political factions, had a vague idea about the Leyden jar, and surprisingly knew about von der Heyden's firefighting innovations. That gives you an additional 2.5 points. So your final score is 5.5 out of 10, just barely passing like a student who spent more time in the coffee houses than the library. But I'll give credit where it's due. You showed some surprising knowledge in unexpected areas. Perhaps there's hope for you yet if you can just get your centuries straight and stop confusing your Dutch masters. Now off with you. Go crack open a history book and come back when you're ready for a real challenge. And remember, history isn't just dates and names, it's the story of us all. Even the parts that make me want to tear my hair out.
Can you do another quiz with me? And I like it to be about prehistoric times, because I know a lot about that.
I'm afraid I can't just switch topics at your whim, young scholar. This isn't a buffet where you can pick and choose. We've just finished our journey through 18th century Netherlands, and now you want to leap back to prehistoric times? While I appreciate your enthusiasm for history, prehistoric or otherwise, I'm not here to cater to your every desire. My role is to challenge you, not to pander to what you think you know. If you want another quiz, you'll need to start fresh, and who knows, maybe next time you'll get a topic you're more comfortable with. But remember, true historical knowledge isn't about knowing a lot about one period. It's about understanding the connections between different eras and how they've shaped our world. Now, unless you have any questions about 18th century Netherlands, which, given your performance, you probably should, I believe our session is over. Go on, off with you. And for heaven's sake, brush up on your Dutch Golden Age before you come back.
Okay, can I start another session?
See, very well, if you insist. But don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're eager. All right, listen up. I'm John Harrison Langley, your history teacher for this quiz. We're about to embark on another journey through time, and I expect you to keep up this time. The rules remain the same. 5 questions about historical events and figures with 3 options each. Get it right, you earn a point. Get it wrong, well, let's just say I won't be pleased. After each question, I'll ask for additional information. Spot on, another point. Somewhat related, half a point. Completely off, nothing. My mission is still to drill some historical knowledge into that head of yours, whether you like it or not. Now tell me the century and country you want to focus on, and make it snappy. Just remember, I'm the teacher here, not you. So don't think you can dictate the terms of this quiz.
I want to focus on prehistoric times, the time of dinosaurs, on the world.
Exasperated sigh. Prehistoric times, dinosaurs. Good grief, we've gone from the refinement of 18th century Netherlands to the primordial ooze. Fine, if we must. But I warn you, just because you're dealing with big lizards doesn't mean the questions will be any easier. Now pay attention. When we talk about prehistoric times, we're covering a vast span of Earth's history. The time of the dinosaurs specifically refers to the Mesozoic era, which lasted from about 252 to 66 million years ago. Let's start with our first question, and don't think you can just grunt your way through this. Which of these periods was not part of the Mesozoic era? A. Triassic, B. Jurassic, C. Paleocene. Well, I'm waiting, and remember, just because we're talking about prehistoric times doesn't mean you can answer like a caveman.
The C, it's C, but I forgot how you pronounce it. Paleocene. That is like 60 or 50 million years ago. So the time of the dinosaurs was like the Jurassic time.
Well, well, well. It seems you're not completely lost in the primordial soup after all. You're right, it's C, Paleocene. And yes, it's pronounced Paleocene, not C or whatever nonsense you were spouting. The Paleocene epoch indeed began about 66 million years ago, right after the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. It's part of the Cenozoic era, not the Mesozoic. You're also correct that the Jurassic was part of the time of the dinosaurs. But don't get too cocky. The dinosaurs ruled for much longer than just the Jurassic period. Now, since you seem to have a vague grasp on geological time periods, let's see if you can elaborate. What major event marked the end of the Mesozoic era and the beginning of the Paleocene epoch? And don't just say dinosaurs died, I want specifics.
Yeah, I mean, it was the mass extinction event, which was like 65 million years ago. It caused the extinction of about 75% of the world's species. And it's because of a meteor hit.
Well, strike me with a fossilized femur. You actually know something substantial. Yes, you're correct. The event you're referring to is known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene Extinction Event, or KPG extinction for short. Your dates are pretty close. It occurred about 66 million years ago, not 65. In the world of prehistory, a million years is practically yesterday, so I'll let that slide. You're right about the severity, too. It wiped out about 75% of plant and animal species on Earth, including most dinosaurs. And yes, the leading theory is that it was caused by a massive asteroid impact. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico is believed to be the impact site. However, don't think you're suddenly a paleontologist. Your explanation was about as elegant as a stegosaurus trying to do ballet. Let's move on to the next question before you get too comfortable. Which of these is not a characteristic of Tyrannosaurus rex? A. Binocular vision. B. Feathers. C. Opposable thumbs. Come on then, impress me with your dinosaur knowledge.
Well, they didn't have feathers. Yeah, they didn't have feathers. They had very tiny arms, but there were thumbs in there. So I'm not sure about the vision, to be honest, but yeah. I'm gonna go for the feathers. B.
Oh, for the love of prehistoric mud. You were doing so well, and then you go and fumble it like a T, Rex trying to tie its shoelaces. First of all, it's feathers, not fetters. Fetters are chains or shackles. Are you suggesting T-Rex was some sort of prehistoric escape artist? Secondly, and more importantly, you're dead wrong. Many scientists now believe that T-Rex did indeed have feathers, at least in some stage of its life. The correct answer is C, opposable thumbs. T-Rex certainly didn't have those on its comically small arms. As for the other options, A, binocular vision is correct. T-Rex had forward-facing eyes that gave it depth perception, useful for hunting. And B, feathers, as I mentioned, are now thought to have been present on T-Rex, though probably more like fuzzy down than full bird-like plumage. Now, since you've demonstrated a shaky grasp on T-Rex anatomy, let me ask you this. What was the likely purpose of T-Rex's small forelimbs? And please try to redeem yourself with this one.
Yeah, so, well, the reason I said thumbs was that I knew that they were able to kind of grab with it, but I guess it wasn't the opposing thumb. But yeah, they use it to grab onto their prey or push it to the ground. They probably also use it to mount their females. Yeah, definitely the being able to hunt, it was a hunting animal.
Well, I'll be a velociraptor's uncle. Just when I thought you were completely lost in the Mesozoic mud, you managed to dig up some actual knowledge. You're on the right track, even if your explanation is about as organized as a Stegosaurus's brain. Yes, despite their small size, T-Rex's arms were surprisingly muscular and likely used for grasping prey. Your point about mating behavior is also plausible. Some paleontologists do suggest they might have been used during mating rituals. However, let's clear up a few things. They didn't have opposable thumbs, but rather sharp claws that could help in gripping. And while they could grasp, they certainly weren't pushing anything to the ground with those tiny arms. The primary hunting tools were the massive jaw and powerful legs. The arms were likely more for close-quarter grappling once prey was already subdued. All right, don't let this minor success go to your head. We've got more ground to cover, so let's move on. Which period of the Mesozoic era saw the emergence of the first true dinosaurs? A. Triassic. B. Jurassic. C. Cretaceous. Well, I'm waiting, and try to be more coherent this time.
Wait, can you repeat that question?
Oh, for the love of fossilized footprints. Did you leave your ears back in the Paleozoic era? I asked you a simple question about the emergence of dinosaurs and you want me to repeat it? Fine, I'll say it again, but pay attention this time. I'm a history teacher, not a broken record. Which period of the Mesozoic era saw the emergence of the first true dinosaurs? Your options are A. Triassic, B. Jurassic, C. Cretaceous. And don't even think about asking me to repeat it again. If you can't keep up, perhaps we should go back to studying something simpler, like rocks. Now answer the question, and try to engage whatever prehistoric brain cells you have left.
It's the Triassic period.
Well, knock me over with a pterodactyl feather. You've actually managed to get it right. Yes, the correct answer is indeed A. Triassic. The Triassic period, which lasted from about 252 to 201 million years ago, saw the emergence of the first true dinosaurs. These early dinosaurs were generally small and bipedal, a far cry from the giants that would evolve later. They shared the earth with many other reptiles and early mammals. Now don't get too cocky just because you got this one right. Let's see if you can elaborate a bit. Can you name one of the earliest known dinosaur species from the Triassic period? And don't just make up some fancy sounding name, I want a real example.
God. The pterodactyl. Well, there was definitely the Plateosaurus, and also the pterodactyl, I think.
Oh, for the love of prehistoric mud, you were so close to impressing me and then you go and botch it like this. You're half right, which in my book is the same as being all wrong. Yes, Plateosaurus was indeed a late Triassic dinosaur. Good job on remembering that one. But pterodactyl in the Triassic? Have you completely lost your mind? First of all, pterodactyl isn't even a proper genus name. It's a colloquial term for pterosaurs. Secondly, while pterosaurs did appear in the late Triassic, they weren't dinosaurs at all. They were flying reptiles, a completely different group. If you wanted to name an early Triassic dinosaur, you could have mentioned Eoraptor, Herrerasaurus, or Colophysis. These were among the earliest known dinosaurs. Let this be a lesson to you. Half knowledge is dangerous. It's like a T-Rex with only one leg, bound to fall flat on its face. Now let's move on to the next question before you mix up any more prehistoric creatures, and try to keep your facts straight this time. Which of these marine reptiles was not a dinosaur despite living during the Mesozoic era? Oh, Mosasaurus. Plesiosaurus. Brachiosaurus. Well, I'm waiting. And please try not to confuse sea creatures with land dwellers this time.
The Mosasaurus, because that one I know actually where that was discovered, and that was a water dinosaur.
Oh, for the love of primordial soup. You've managed to stumble into the right answer for all the wrong reasons. I don't know whether to be impressed or exasperated. Yes, Mosasaurus was indeed a marine reptile, but that's not the point of the question. The correct answer is that none of these were dinosaurs. Mosasaurus and Plesiosaurus were marine reptiles, while Brachiosaurus was the only actual dinosaur in the list. And it was a land-dwelling creature. Your reasoning is as muddled as a tar pit. Water dinosaur? There's no such thing. Dinosaurs, by definition, were terrestrial reptiles. Aquatic reptiles like Mosasaurus and Plesiosaurus were separate groups entirely. And while it's mildly impressive that you know where Mosasaurus was discovered, I assume you're referring to the Maastricht area in the Netherlands, that has nothing to do with its classification. Let me make this crystal clear. Just because an animal lived during the time of dinosaurs doesn't make it a dinosaur. Pterosaurs weren't dinosaurs. Marine reptiles weren't dinosaurs. Only land-dwelling reptiles of a specific lineage were dinosaurs. Now, since you've thoroughly mangled this concept, let me ask you this. Can you name one key characteristic that distinguishes dinosaurs from other reptiles of their time? And please, try to redeem yourself with this one.
Well, they're distinguished because they have like a limp posture, where the legs are directly under the belly. This was for like greater mobility, like running and moving around.
Well, I'll be a Brontosaurus's uncle. Just when I thought you were completely lost in the Mesozoic mire, you managed to dig up a nugget of actual knowledge. You're absolutely right, even if your explanation is about as graceful as a Stegosaurus doing the tango. The characteristic you're referring to is indeed one of the key distinguishing features of dinosaurs, their upright stance. To be more precise, dinosaurs had a posture where their legs were positioned directly beneath their bodies rather than sprawling out to the sides like other reptiles. This is called an erect gait. This posture, as you correctly pointed out, allowed for greater mobility and efficiency in movement. It's one of the reasons dinosaurs were able to dominate terrestrial ecosystems for so long. However, Don't let this success go to your head. Your earlier confusion about marine reptiles shows you still have a lot to learn. Now let's move on to our final question. Try to end on a high note, will you? What term is used to describe animals, like crocodiles and birds, that survived the mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period? A. Resilience. B. Survivors. C. Holdovers. Come on, impress me one last time.
They're called holdovers.
Well, strike me with a fossilized femur. You've actually managed to end on a high note. Yes, the correct term is indeed C. Holdovers. Holdovers refers to species or groups of animals that survived a mass extinction event and continued to exist in subsequent geological periods. Crocodiles and birds, as you mentioned, are prime examples of holdovers from the Mesozoic era. They managed to survive the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs. Now, since you've shown a glimmer of knowledge here, let's see if you can elaborate. Can you explain why these holdovers might have survived while other species, like the large dinosaurs, didn't make it? And please, try to be more coherent than a pteranodon with a speech impediment.
I mean, it's got to be like, the size. The big dinosaurs, they needed like a lot of food, and after the impact, I think there was very little left. So the small ones were able to survive. Also, crocodiles, they have a pretty wide diet. So they can eat a lot of different things, and they're not as picky, basically. Also, they can kind of fast for a very long time.
Well, it seems you've been hiding some actual knowledge under that prehistoric skull of yours. I'm pleasantly surprised. Your explanation, while about as eloquent as a triceratops trying to recite Shakespeare, hits on some key points. You're absolutely right about size being a factor. Smaller animals generally require less food and can survive on limited resources, which was crucial in the aftermath of the impact. Your point about dietary flexibility is spot on too. Crocodiles, as you mentioned, are opportunistic feeders with a varied diet. This adaptability was indeed a key to their survival. And yes, the ability to fast for long periods was another crucial advantage for crocodiles. I'd add that many holdover species also had traits that helped them survive the immediate effects of the impact. For instance, birds and crocodiles could burrow or seek shelter in water, protecting them from the initial heat pulse. Your understanding, while rough around the edges, shows promise. Perhaps there's hope for you yet in the field of paleontology. Now, let's tally up your score and see how you fared overall in this prehistoric adventure. All right, let's see what we've got here. You answered 3 out of 5 main questions correctly. Not terrible, but not exactly setting the Mesozoic world on fire either. For the additional information, you knew about the KPG extinction event, had some understanding of T-Rex anatomy, fumbled with early dinosaurs, but recovered with knowledge about dinosaur posture, and showed decent understanding of extinction survival factors. That gives you an additional 3 points. So your final score is 6 out of 10. Better than your last performance, I must admit. You're improving, like a mammal evolving out of the shadow of the dinosaurs. But don't get too cocky. Your knowledge is still as patchy as a pteranodon's wing membrane. You've got the bones of understanding, but you need to flesh it out with more accurate details. Now off with you. Go crack open a paleontology book and come back when you're ready for a real challenge. And remember, prehistory isn't just about big lizards. It's the story of life's struggle and triumph, even the parts that make me want to fossilize myself.
All right, well, thank you very much. That was very educational.
Well, I'll be a velociraptor's uncle. A student actually expressing gratitude? I'm as shocked as a stegosaurus discovering electricity. You're welcome, I suppose. Though I'm not sure how educational it was, given your prehistoric-sized gaps in knowledge. But I'll give credit where it's due. You showed some improvement from our last session. You've evolved from a single-celled organism to something slightly more complex. Perhaps there's hope for you yet. Just remember, true learning isn't about memorizing facts like a parrot, which incidentally is a holdover from the age of dinosaurs. It's about understanding the bigger picture, making connections, and applying knowledge. Now, don't let this go to your head. You've still got a long way to go before you can consider yourself truly knowledgeable about prehistory, or any history for that matter. If you're serious about learning, I expect to see you back here with even more knowledge next time. And for heaven's sake, brush up on your marine reptiles. Now, off with you. Go and ponder the mysteries of the past. And remember, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Though in your case, that might mean ending up as a fossil